Oh, hello, and welcome to a very special episode of the Cole Memo. Folks, it's Monday. I hope you're having a good one. We've got some breaking news today at both a state and federal level, and that's what we'll be talking about in today's broadcast. We'll be covering what could be one of the most significant shifts in federal cannabis policy in recent years. Plus, we'll take a look at a new opportunity for social equity licensees in the Illinois cannabis industry. All of that right here on this episode of
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo is what allows this whole thing to go on.
I mean, you have to respect the memo.
Hey, this is Tommy Chong, and you're listening and watching The Cole Memo.
Oh, yes. Hell yeah. Welcome, folks. As Nuka618 says, hell yeah, boy. Very exciting stuff. Folks, you've probably already heard by now, but just wanted to break some news here. But before I do that, just a quick recap, important in case you don't follow these details. The Biden administration kicked off the cannabis rescheduling process in October of 2022. Yes, 3 years ago, what that feels like, when President Biden directed federal agencies to review cannabis's status under the Controlled Substances Act. The Department of Health and Human Services later recommended moving it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, a shift that some say would ease research barriers and provide relief for the industry as it exists today. Since that recommendation, the process has stalled with little public movement until today, when the Trump administration announced that a final decision could come within weeks. Now, we'll watch that clip here in just a moment, but you may have heard about this weekend. The story really started to bubble up and was reported everywhere based on an article from the Wall Street Journal. Sorry for the brief pause there. I just got a message on my streaming service. This article from the Wall Street Journal really kicked off the attention on this process, for lack of better words. And let's watch the president's statement regarding this matter. He was ultimately asked about it in a press conference he gave today on, it wasn't even related to marijuana. It had something to do with policy in DC. Let's watch this question and answer between President Trump and a member of the press.
Any other questions, sir? There's reporting that the administration is going to reclassify marijuana. Would that send mixed messages that if marijuana is okay, some drugs are okay, but we're trying to clean up crime? How do they go hand in hand?
We're only looking at that. That's early, but somebody reported it, which is fine. We're looking at it. Some people like it. Some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification, and we'll make a determination over the next few weeks. And that determination hopefully will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject, the subject of marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else. But medical and, for pain and various things, I've heard some pretty good things. But for other things, I've heard some pretty bad things. The other part of your question.
Any other questions, sir?
Whoops, I was muted. That is what he had to say on the matter. There have been several reactions to this whole thing, and I'm sure you've seen some of them online. We'll display some on screen. CNBC is reporting that cannabis stocks are rallying after this was actually just after the Wall Street Journal report that Trump was weighing drug classification. I'd be interested to see what the reactions are in stocks now. Admittedly, I'm not a stock guy, so I don't really care. But nevertheless, it is a reaction. We'll be sharing more reactions in the coming days. I will just share this reaction from a group who notably is opposed to cannabis legalization and has been campaigning against rescheduling. They argue that crime rates would increase if this were to go through. They argue that changes to 280E would free up vast sums for the industry to pour into advertising, lobbying, and expanding its influence. And there are some other concerns that they have aired. Like I say, we will be talking more about this on the show and getting more reactions. But today I ask, what is your reaction? Comment below. We can display your comment right now because we are live on the internet. I'm curious, what do you think? You know, the discussion I've heard online, some people say rescheduling is not good enough, that descheduling is the only option. Some people say rescheduling is a nice start, a baby step, if you will. And then, like I say, there are some people within the industry that say that this could be really good for the industry, like this prohibitionist group that I just displayed on my screen had said. They view it. It seems like the prohibitionists and the cannabis industry insiders are on the same page that this would provide relief for what is called 280E. In other words, you can't write off your taxes as a legal cannabis business because it's not legal because you're selling a Schedule 1 drug um, just over the counter. And so basically 280E applies if you're doing that. And it's basically seen, I think, as from what I understand, it's basically like an 80% tax or something like that. Do some more research on 280E if you're a nerd like me and would like to learn more. So again, curious, what do you think about this? Comment below, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're going to close out the show with a quick story. I shared some information about this later last week. It sounded like cannabis loans would be announced for licensees in the state of Illinois. Reporting from Illinois News Joint confirms that Governor Pritzker and the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity recently announced that applications for round 3 of the Cannabis Social Equity Loan Program are open on August 11th. And so check out this report by Illinois News Joint. We'll have it in the show notes. It's got some information on how you can attend a webinar, it looks like, how you can maybe even attend office hours and application reviews, as well as contact information for DCEO, for the cannabis loan sector, if you will, of DCEO. So check out this full report from Illinois News Joint if you are somebody who is considering applying for one of these social equity loans. And if you are, reach out. I'm curious what the process is like. I know this is the 3rd round, so if you've been through the first 2 of whatever, I'm interested in your perspective. I think it would be interesting to hear how all of this went. So we are live on YouTube. Drop your comments if you haven't already. Would love to see what you think about what we've discussed so far. Smash that like button. If you're catching this later and you're wondering how to catch the show live, I'd say the best way is to go to colememo.com/YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you never miss a stream. I always try to announce it on YouTube. This podcast also streams on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcasting platforms. And if you like what I do, you can support me at colememo.com/support, or you can become a patron at colememo.com/Patreon. That's just $3 a month, and it allows you to help keep this show going and get early access to my content. Once again, that's colememo.com/PATREON. Shout out to Peter N., who recently became a patron. They said that they joined because they wanted to support me, and they left a comment and said, "You're doing great work teaching stoners about the government." Thank you, Peter. I appreciate your support. I appreciate the comment. And, one of the best ways to support the show, I will just say, is by hitting the like button. I've said it, I think, 2 or 3 times now, subscribing, or just giving the show a favorable rating from wherever you're listening from. If you can't support the show financially, that's okay. One of the best ways to support the show is just by engaging with the show. So drop your comments, like the content, subscribe to our content. And, if you're able, like I say, colememo.com/support or colememo.com/Patreon. This show is brought to you by listeners like you. Brandon says, just getting here. I guess I missed the news. Man, if you missed the news today, this is going to be a short live stream. I'm probably going to try to wrap it up here within the next minute. Scroll back, see the news. I played the clips. Interesting stuff, to say the least. Interesting developments. I plan to have more people on later this week to discuss their thoughts. Before I wrap up, I will try to read some comments on Instagram because I miss these sometimes. So if you're watching from Instagram, I apologize. Looks like Buck B Wake and Bakery applied. They said they applied for the loans last year and were approved. That's interesting to hear about. Nice. Someone said, if this is about the Trump rescheduling thing, did you see Jesse Barney's comments on it on High at 9 News this morning? No, I'll have to go back and check that out. I know that right before they went live on High at 9 News, I reached out to the host, Jason Beck, and I was like, did you see what your boy Trump just said? Jason Beck is a big fan of Donald Trump. So I was like, did you see what he had to say on marijuana? Definitely interesting. I know last time I was on High at 9 News, Jesse and Jason both disagreed with me and indicated that they felt Trump would be going for descheduling over rescheduling, which, hey, I'd love it. I'd love to see that happen. So he was talking about a guy named Anthony Minetti who owns most of the pharmacy license and a dispensary and has a very interesting take on how it will shut the industry down. Okay, I'll have to check that out. Shout out to the folks at High at 9 News and shout out to all of you for tuning in today. I hope that you found this little episode helpful. I'm really curious about what you think about this. Do you think rescheduling is a good start? Do you think it's not enough? Deschedule or bust? Or do you have like a completely unique take? I've kind of seen people fall into different camps. So that's why I asked the question that way. But, everybody has their own unique beliefs. So I'd love to hear what you think about this. Comment below and I will be sure to read up on what you think about it. Just a heads up before I go, I should be live tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. with the Two Dope Dudes from the Elevated News podcast. We're going to be having a good old time, if you will. I will also be live tomorrow at noon discussing rescheduling. And I will specifically be joined by a person who has the perspective of being opposed to rescheduling. So, like I said, people fall into different camps, and I'm going to try to capture those perspectives. Please, like I say, I'll say it one more time before I go. Comment below with what you think about this. I'm curious. It'll definitely be interesting to see how this develops, especially since President Trump indicated that it'll be within the next few weeks, which I will say really quickly. I've seen some people on Twitter say it'll be within the next 2 weeks. Unless I heard it incorrectly, he said the next few weeks. In my mind, few equals 3 or more. What do you think? What does few mean to you? That's another question for you to answer in the comments. Will it be in the next 3 weeks? I don't know. People have been saying coming soon for a while. So at this point, if you can't tell, I will believe it when I see it. Folks, once again, hope you found value. We'll see you on the next stream. Come tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Come tomorrow at noon. We're going to have a good old time tomorrow. Happy Monday. And I hope the rest of your week goes smooth. Take care.